In 1971 the world lost its mind over this feel-good story, that made you want to believe in humanity again. Deep in the impenetrable jungles of the Philippine island of Mindanao, a government official named Manuel Elizalde discovered a tiny tribe that, get this, was supposedly still living in the Stone Age. The Tasidae were like the perfect fantasy come to life. Real-life noble savages. They lived in caves, wore nothing but orchid leaf loincloths, used stone axes, and had zero clue what metal even was. But the kicker? Their language supposedly had no words for war, enemy, or weapon. The most peaceful people on earth. They ate whatever the forest gave them, had no concept of private property or conflict, and just seemed to genuinely love each other. This hit exactly when the world needed it most, right in the middle of the Vietnam War. People were sick of napalm, nightly body counts on the news, and endless talk about human cruelty. Suddenly, here was this little utopia in the jungle. Western audiences ate it up. National Geographic put them on the cover, made a whole documentary. Celebrities flew in: Charles Lindbergh, Gina Lollobrigida, the Ford family. Everyone was moved to tears watching these children of nature. By then Elizalde had declared himself the official protector of the tribe. He turned the area around the caves into a reserve, locked it down tight. Anthropologists? Banned, supposedly to protect the Tasidae's fragile immune systems. Only hand-picked journalists got in, and only if Elizalde personally chaperoned them. A special foundation was set up to supposedly help the tribe. Money, millions of dollars, started pouring in fast. From 1971 to 1976, a lot of people treated the Tasidae as maybe the biggest anthropological find of the entire 20th century. It felt like living, breathing, documented proof of the noble savage idea. One of the most emotionally charged symbols of the whole 1970s, that decade when everyone was desperately hunting for some pure, uncorrupted, pre-civilization human who was still at peace with the world. The idea itself is simple and incredibly seductive. Humans are naturally good. In our original state of nature, we lived without violence or vice, uncorrupted by civilization's poison. And so we kept our inborn honesty, freedom, generosity, courage, and harmony with nature. That romanticized picture was always contrasted with the corrupted European, greedy, aggressive, morally rotten. Funny thing is, the noble savage concept goes way back, way before the Tasidae. The version we know from the 20th century, first showed up in the early 1600s, with a French colonial lawyer and traveler named Marc Lescarbot. The actual English phrase, noble savage, was coined by the poet John Dryden in 1672. Jean-Jacques Rousseau gets most of the blame for popularizing it, but he never actually used the term, and wasn't nearly the starry-eyed romantic about savages that people think. The over-the-top Rousseau myth we know today was largely cooked up later, in the mid-1800s by John Crawford, basically for racist, pro-colonial reasons, to discredit his opponents. In the 20th century the idea really clicked with left-leaning intellectuals and Marxists. It fit perfectly with bashing capitalism, imperialism, and the decadent West. The Tasidae looked like the ultimate slam-dunk evidence. Almost. The fairy tale fell apart in 1986. Ferdinand Marcos, the Philippine dictator, got overthrown and fled the country. Manuel Elizalde disappeared right along with him, reportedly taking something like $35 million from the tribe's foundation. Almost immediately a Swiss journalist named Oswald Iten did what had been impossible before: he hiked into the jungle without anyone's permission. What he found was a bucket of ice water on the whole scientific world. The caves? Empty. No sign anyone had ever lived there long-term, no trash, no soot on the walls, nothing. A little deeper in the forest he came across a regular village. And there were the Tasidae, wearing jeans and t-shirts, smoking cigarettes, growing rice, sleeping on bamboo beds. The locals spilled everything pretty quickly. Elizalde had shown up years earlier and basically said, pretend to be primitive cave people whenever important visitors come. Do it right and you'll get money, cigarettes, and protection from bandits. So when helicopters showed up with white people, they'd run to the caves, strip down, put on leaves, and start fake rubbing sticks for fire. The second the guests left, back into normal clothes, back to the village, laughing about the weird tourists. And just like that, the supposed modern proof of the noble savage collapsed. It was an elaborately staged performance. These days most anthropologists pretty much agree that noble savage concept is a myth. It got started largely because early Europeans mistook cautious, adaptive behavior for natural goodness. The friendliness, the exaggerated peacefulness, the hospitality, the deliberate show of harmlessness, those were smart, rational responses to meeting heavily armed strangers who could kill you in a heartbeat. Plus, a lot of those early reports were romanticized or based on very short, shallow contacts. Real pre-civilization societies, hunter-gatherers, early farmers, etc., weren't especially noble or especially evil. They were just human. The full package: cooperation, altruism, mutual aid, but also war, revenge, violence, infanticide, geronticide during hard times, ritual or starvation cannibalism. Intergroup violence was actually very common in stateless societies, often even higher, as a percentage of deaths, than in modern states. Lawrence Keeley's classic book War Before Civilization, The Myth of the Peaceful Savage, 1996, along with later research, made a pretty convincing case for that. And yet the noble savage myth refuses to die. It keeps popping up in public debates because it's just too convenient. It lets people trash their own civilization, romanticize the past, and blame every problem on being cut off from nature. So it lives on among romantics, hippies, modern environmentalists, anti-globalists, even though reality has put a big fat red X through it many times over. Thank you for listening.